Imagine a world plunged into economic chaos, where markets crash, currencies lose value, and global trade grinds to a halt. This is the bleak reality if the USA defaults on its debt. Picture this: the United States, the world's largest economy, fails to meet its financial obligations. It's a scenario that sends shivers down the spines of economists worldwide. As the holder of the world's primary reserve currency, the impact of a US default would reverberate across the globe, and the economic fallout would be catastrophic. The global economy is intricately interconnected, with the US dollar serving as its linchpin. A default by the United States would shake the very foundations of this system. Financial markets would be thrown into disarray, with investors scrambling for safety amidst a surge of uncertainty. Stock markets could plummet, wiping out trillions in wealth and potentially triggering a global recession. The domino effect wouldn't stop there. The value of the dollar could nosedive, sending shockwaves through global trade. Countries heavily reliant on the US for trade could see their economies hit hard, leading to a surge in unemployment rates. The global financial system, too, would not be spared. Confidence in the US, considered a safe haven for investors, would be shattered. This could lead to massive capital outflows from the US, destabilizing financial institutions worldwide. In a worst-case scenario, we could witness a collapse of the global financial system, dwarfing the financial crisis of 2008. But this isn't just about numbers and markets. It's about real people with real lives. Jobs could be lost, savings wiped out, and countless lives thrown into turmoil. The ripple effects of a US default would be felt by everyone, everywhere. The world as we know it could change dramatically, and not for the better. Understanding how we got to this point is critical. The journey to the brink of default has been a long one, filled with economic missteps and political brinkmanship. Let's trace this path back, starting with increased government spending. Over the past few decades, the United States government has been spending more than it's been bringing in, a practice that's not sustainable in the long run. This has led to an ever-increasing national debt, which has now ballooned to an astronomical $26 trillion. Next, we have the economic impacts of COVID-19. The pandemic has caused a seismic shift in the global economy, and the United States has been no exception. The government had to spend heavily on healthcare and stimulus packages to keep the economy from collapsing entirely. This, of course, led to an even greater increase in the national debt. And then there's the political disagreements over the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is essentially a cap set by Congress on how much the government can borrow. While it's meant to control spending, it often becomes a political football, with parties using it as leverage for their own agendas. The recent impasse over raising the debt ceiling is a prime example of this. The disagreement has brought the government to a standstill, pushing the country closer to a potential default. And here we are now, standing on the edge of a fiscal abyss. The path that led us here has been winding and fraught with challenges. But it's not just a tale of doom and gloom. It's also a story of resilience, of a nation grappling with its economic realities and striving to find a way forward. With each passing day, the US inches closer to the precipice of default. The clock is ticking, and the world watches with bated breath, waiting to see whether the United States will step back from the edge or tumble into the abyss. What happens in the US doesn't stay in the US. A default would send shockwaves through the global economy. Just like a stone thrown into a pond, the effects would ripple outwards, touching every corner of the globe. Let's look at why. Firstly, global markets would be destabilized. Many countries hold US debt in the form of treasury bonds. If the US defaults, these bonds would lose value, potentially causing a worldwide financial crisis, similar to the one we saw in 2008. Secondly, we must consider the impact on trade. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency and plays a vital role in international trade. A default could cause the value of the dollar to plummet, creating chaos in global markets and making imports and exports more expensive. Lastly, let's not forget the effects on developing countries. Many of these nations rely heavily on remittances from the US. A default could lead to a decrease in these remittances, resulting in economic hardship for millions of people. The ripple effect of a US default would be felt across the globe. The situation is dire, but not all hope is lost. As viewers, your understanding and awareness of this issue matters. The journey we've taken today from the brink of a US default to the potential global fallout is no light trek. It's a sobering reminder of the interconnectedness of our world economy and the ripple effects of financial decisions made by powerhouse nations. But here's where you come in. By staying informed, by understanding the nuances of these economic issues, you're playing a critical role in shaping the conversation. It's about more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about people, livelihoods, futures. The more we know, the more we can influence decisions, push for transparency, and hold those in power accountable. So let's keep this dialogue going. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay economically savvy.